faces close, but some never rest. When silence screams, we listen. This is dead and wrong.
Hi there, I'm Liz.
And I'm Sam.
And this is Dead and Wrong, your weekly podcast for all things dead. People, animals, ghosts, you name it. If it's dead, we are going to cover it.
And today, we get to do something new. Our first shout out. We want to shout out Peyton and her 3 adorable puppies, Oreo, Scotch, and Stewie. Also to her friend Cynthia, who introduced her to us. Ooh.
Yes. And by the way, Peyton, your pups and them in their pajamas,
Adorable.
I thought they were so cute. I was like, oh my God, Artemis would never. But these are adorable.
And
so
for new
freaking
listeners,
adorable.
Artemis is her dog.
Yes, Artemis is my dog. She would never let me put clothes on her, though. So, Peyton, you are the first person to share your pups with us. And we both got super excited when we saw the email. Sam saw it first, and then
Giddy.
she messaged me and was like, oh my God, did you see the email? So, thank you. Both you and Cynthia are amazing.
Thank
Shout
you.
out to Cynthia, because I actually know her. Cynthia, you are amazing. And now that Sam and I have done our official fangirling for our fans, let us get started. Dead and Wrong presents episode 25, Dr. No. So, Interstate 71, which is also known as I-71, is a major highway that stretches a total of 345 miles / 552 kilometers. If you were to drive this road, it would take you from Cleveland, Ohio, along the shores of Lake Erie, through the major cities of Columbus and Cincinnati, and then come to its conclusion in Louisville, Kentucky. While traveling from Cleveland, you would typically go through a handful of towns and smaller cities such as Middleburg Heights, Medina, Mansfield, Landon, Kenwood. Now in Kentucky, Covington, Florence, Walston, Pedaltown, and Worthington before it ended in Louisville. And I'm sure you're wondering, okay, the highway goes through a lot of places in Ohio and Kentucky. What's the importance of this? Well,
Pendleton.
what did I say?
Pedaltown.
Oops. Pendleton. My apologies. If you're listening to this and you're from Pendleton, I sincerely apologize.
Pedaltown.
My brain added letters and switched letters around. And Sam's a dyslexic one.
I got my glasses on today, okay?
Yeah. Everyone, quick clap for Sam. She's wearing her glasses. She can see. We don't have to zoom in on the document for her. Well, now that we've covered the fact that Sam needs to wear her glasses more, between 1981 and 1990, the highways that connected to I-71 were a terror for those who did sex work and even a few who were, quite frankly, just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Specifically, it appeared those targeted were working from parking lots and truck stops that were located on the highways that intersected off of I-71. So basically, I-71 connected all these off-highway crimes. At least 10 women would be found later on along I-71, some of them on connecting highways. All of them were beaten, all of them were dead, and all were presumed to be killed by the same serial killer. The terror of the I-71 killer started on April 24th, 1981, when a farmer came across the body of a young, red-haired woman lying in a ditch off of Greenlee Road. This area was just west of Troy, Ohio. The woman was fully dressed, except for the fact that she wasn't wearing anything on her feet. No shoes, no socks, nothing. She was, however, wearing a fringed deerskin poncho, which was obviously odd to the investigators and police that were on the scene. During her autopsy, they were able to discover that she had not been raped, but she had been beaten severely, and her cause of death was strangulation. Now, there was nothing near her to identify her. No wallet, no ID, no nothing. So for years, she would simply be known as Buckskin Girl, which came from the poncho. And she would be the first of many victims to sadly fall prey to this killer. Now, 4 years would go by before the second victim was found. On June 12th, 1985, 25-year-old Marcia Matthews, a known sex worker with the nickname Pepper, was found along I-71, still alive, but with a fractured skull. Marcia was last seen about a mile away from the Union 76 truck stop in Austintown, Ohio. Now, Austintown was one of those ones that was connected to a highway that was connected to I-71. And this was I-76. I-76 and I-71 crossed in Akron, which is like south, slightly west of Cleveland. Marcia would sadly die 2 days later in the hospital from her injuries, making her officially the second victim. In July of 1986, the third victim, 23-year-old Shirley Dean Taylor, was actively working and looking for clients at the same Union 76 truck stop as Marcia. A witness would later tell police that night she had an appointment with a man she considered to be one of her regulars. Shirley would always refer to this man by his CB radio handle, Dr. No. This appointment would be her last, as she mysteriously disappeared after meeting up with him. On July 20th, her body was found behind a guardrail in Medina County, Ohio, alongside I-71. Just like the other two, she was beaten in the head and strangled to death. This time, however, belongings were missing, more than just shoes. These belongings were her shoes, her underwear, and pieces of her jewelry. And none of these items have ever been recovered. And I also want to note, she was last seen in July. I was not able to find the exact day that she was last seen. And even sources have stated that no one really knows exactly what was the last day she was seen, just the day that she was found. So months would go by, and the fourth victim would go missing and be found dead. This was 18-year-old April Barnett, who vanished from the Union 76 truck stop. And on December 4th, she was found near a rest area in Ashland County along I-71. Just like everybody else, she was found beaten, she had been strangled to death, and she was missing several pieces of clothing and jewelry. Just like the prior victim, it's unknown exactly which day she went missing, only what day she was found. Now, usually, as you can tell, it's been a little bit of a time gap from when the next victim is found. This time, only 2 weeks passed. And then on December 19th, the fifth victim, 28-year-old Jill Allen, was found along Interstate 70 in Springfield, Illinois. She had been beaten and strangled to death, and her bra, underwear, and shoes were missing. In relation to I-71, I-70 intersects with it in Columbus, Ohio. This Union 76 truck stop that I've been talking about is northeast of Columbus. And it was during this investigation of their fifth victim that the police concluded that the pieces of missing clothes and jewelry were more than likely trophies for this guy. He wanted to keep it as a remembrance of what he did. So while this victim, Jill, was found pretty far from the killer's usual hunting grounds, or what they have been, Jill is still considered one of his victims due to having the same cause of death, being beaten the same exact way, and then having those missing pieces of clothing and jewelry. On February 7th, 1987, police would come in contact with 27-year-old Anne Marie Patterson. That's a really pretty name.
That is a really pretty name. That's
And
gorgeous.
And like Anne Marie's the first name. It's not first
Marie's.
and middle.
Didn't you say the second victim was a Marie? Or Mercy?
Marcia.
There's a lot of M's here.
There is. So they contacted her at the Union 76 truck stop back in Austintown once again. Anne Marie was being arrested for criminal trespassing, but she wasn't really worried about it at the time. She told the police upon her arrest that she knew who the man was that had been killing all the women that were being found along I-71, or at least had a pretty good idea of who it was. The police tried to talk to her about it, but she would end up clam up pretty quickly, noting that she was worried if he found out about her talking before he was captured, that he would kill her. Unknown if just speaking in general with the police tipped him off, or if she was just an unfortunate, predetermined victim, Anne Marie, who was also known as Sleeping Beauty, received a call from a client that went by Dr. No the very next day. Now, Anne Marie had been in contact with this client before and really wasn't a fan of him. Some of her friends had also taken him on as a client, and they felt the same way. So at first, Anne Marie said no. But later that night, she received a second call from Dr. No, and for whatever reason, she agreed to meet with him, and she would become victim number 6 after going missing that night. About a month later, roughly mid-March, Anne Marie's body was discovered lying in a few inches of water in a drainage ditch along I-71, wrapped up in a sleeping bag near Cincinnati. This was approximately 250 miles from the truck stop in Austintown. Upon finding her body, the police returned to the Union 76 truck stop and talked to anyone who would quite frankly talk. Luckily, due to the increased number of victims and, women doing their thing and looking out for other women, witnesses were able to provide a description of the truck that Anne Marie was last seen heading towards. The client had been driving a either dark blue or maybe black Peterbilt truck. And when they asked, okay, this is the kind of truck he's driving, is there anything else that we need to know? Some of the women did mention that Anne Marie had a very strict rule she never broke. She never left the truck stop when she was with a client. And every single person was like, no, she's never broken this rule since she started. To the police, this meant more than likely Anne Marie had been knocked out and then the killer left with her still in the cab. And now it's thinking, like, is this what's happened to the other women? Where they were in his cab, he somehow knocked them unconscious and then left with them. So following an autopsy, and this part is sad, police learn that Anne Marie's head had been bashed in, and she had actually died only a day or two after disappearing. And her body was in such good condition that they determined that whoever this Dr. No guy was, he kept her body frozen somewhere, which made them think that maybe he's driving like a refrigerated container. Because you've seen semi-cabs. They're so freaking big. So he could have easily shoved her into a cooler and put him in the back of his trailer.
So you're saying like it's one of those big ice cab trucks, like where frozen meat and stuff might be hanging in there?
Yeah. Or even refrigerated, because he could, even if it's just refrigerated, you could easily put a cooler in the back of one of those.
Yes.
Tragically, while doing this autopsy, they also learned that Anne Marie had been 6 months pregnant at the time of her murder.
That's sad. Like,
that's very sad. That's heartbreaking.
Why would you do that? Poor lady.
Well, probably because this guy is a douche canoe.
Yeah, we already know that.
He's a piece of shit.
Shit.
As I've said, at this point, we have sadly had 6 victims show up, all of them appearing to clearly have been killed by the same person. Now, one thing while doing the investigation, talking to everybody, one thing just kept popping up over and over again. The CB radio handle, Dr. No. A lot of these women, he was one of their clients, and then they would go missing. So,
Like a recurring client or just the
like
client?
The client, like
One time.
at least once, all of these women were connected to Dr. No.
Right, but like, was he a recurring client to them? Is that why their coworkers knew the name Dr. No?
For some of them,
Okay.
yes. But because this radio handle kept popping up, and obviously it has been known that at least 2 to 3 of them were last seen going to have a hangout session with Dr. No, this basically kind of was like, okay, we think whoever this Dr. No is probably the one who's doing it. And so they officially started calling him Dr. No.
Okay.
And that's how he got his official serial killer title, Dr. No. Or he's also known as the I-71 prostitute killer, but Dr. No's a lot quicker to say. So, on August 10th, 1987, just a reminder, we started in April of 1981. The 7th victim was found in Inglewood, Ohio. She had been strangled to death, and her top and her bra were stolen. Her jeans and her underwear were left around her ankles, and due to the damages to her body, like the scrapes, the cuts, the bruises, they actually believed that her body had been thrown out of the vehicle.
Jeez.
Like he might have just been slowly driving, or he stopped somewhere and literally just tossed her and threw her and then drove away.
That's horrible.
He didn't even try to hide this body that well. He just yeeted her right out. And like our first victim, the police would be unable to identify her, and she would be known as a Jane Doe for years. Just over 2 months after Jane Doe was found, the 8th victim, 19-year-old LaMonica Cole, would be found. LaMonica had been working the truck stops in multiple different states in the prior months, but it was confirmed that her last stop was when she checked into a motel in Breezewood, Pennsylvania, with her boyfriend, who was also considered her pimp, 24-year-old Derek Mims, and her 9-month-old daughter, Chevelle.
No. She feels pretty, though. That's a pretty name.
Very pretty name. I feel horrible that, like, she's a mom. She's a 9-month-old. That's a very important stage for your child.
Yeah. She needed her mom.
She did. Well, around 3 a.m. on November 21st, 1987, LaMonica met up with a client who was driving a blue semi truck that had a white stripe down the side and never returned. Derek grew worried immediately. They didn't say the time frame, but usually LaMonica would only be gone for a certain amount of time, and then she always came back. So she had gone past that time, and Derek's like, okay, this isn't like her. She's definitely not going to leave her child for that long. And even
At least
though
he knew better.
Yeah. And well, even though he was technically her pimp, they were also actively dating.
Yeah. And apparently taking good care of her daughter.
Yeah.
So that's good.
So, like I said, Derek grew worried immediately, and they must have been somewhat close to where LaMonica's siblings were. So he called her brother and sister, Greg and Sharon, explained how she was missing, and they like jumped in the car and got to the area as soon as they could. And the 2 of them plus Derek started searching everywhere in the area for LaMonica. Sadly, the following Sunday morning, Greg found his sister's body.
That's sad. That's horrible.
I know. Her body had been dumped over a hill behind the truck stop that was closest to the motel.
So she wasn't that far.
No, she was not that far at all. I'm going to take a gander and say he killed her in the truck stop.
I'd agree with that.
So LaMonica had been suffocated with her own handkerchief by it being stuffed down her throat. And pieces of her clothing, just like all the other women, were missing. When police started speaking to Derek about her, they learned that LaMonica was originally from the Austintown area and spent a lot of her career at the Union 76 truck stop.
You said that place a few times now.
I am certain this truck stop was his main hunting ground. This is where he found the women he wanted to kill. And a lot of these women, like, they weren't raped. And a lot of these, it didn't even show that they had sex. So it sounds like he literally only wanted these women to kill them.
Like, de-stress or just...
I think he was just a monster who wanted to kill women.
I'm not saying de-stress isn't like a good thing, but I mean, you know what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Okay.
You mean like he has some pent-up anger and his disgusting way of dealing with it and relaxing was killing women.
Yes, not in a healthy manner, but in a psychotic,
very unhealthy
break of a matter.
So, 31-year-old Terry Rorsch was the 9th victim, and like LaMonica, was not on the usual hunting grounds of the killer. Terry was last seen alive on March 21st, 1988. She had been leaving a mental health facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And
Dude, he grabbed her after she was getting some mental health.
Yeah, he probably should have just swapped places with her.
Right?
Terry was found dead 8 days later after her release on the Twin Bridges in Clifton Park in New York. So she left Oklahoma and was found dead 8 days later in New York.
He took a detour.
I have a sinking feeling that he is like a long haul trucker. Usually some truckers will stay in an area and then every now and then take really big trips.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost bet he couldn't wait, quote unquote, wait to get back to...
So he just grabbed what was near.
Yes.
That poor girl.
And if he was probably on a time schedule, because sometimes truckers are, they have to get somewhere by a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably just killed her, left her body there, made sure he got to his next stop on time, and then dumped her body. And then went back to Ohio. So Terry, just like all the other women, had been beaten savagely in the head with some kind of blunt object. She was missing her underwear and shoes. None of these items have been located. And she had a duffel bag of clothes that had been located about 10 miles from her body, which I do find interesting, like why separate her body and her duffel bag?
Yeah.
Unless
maybe
something
because
spooked him.
Probably. Or had too many objects that would identify her too easily.
True. Maybe he was hoping like they wouldn't find both right away and it would be easier for him to get away.
Possibly.
No. 2 years would pass before the 10th victim was found. On April 19th, 1990, an employee of a Pilot gas station discovered the remains of an almost completely nude young woman near a dumpster behind a rural truck stop at the intersection of I-70 and Ohio 37. Like all the others, she had been viciously beaten in the head. She was missing all of her clothes but her underwear. But while those things are the same, for her, the autopsy did determine that she had had sex 12 to 24 hours before dying. But they were not able to determine if it had been rape or consensual. And like Jane Doe in our first victim, they would not identify her for at least 30 years. So 3 out of 10 are unidentified right now. The final woman who would be linked to Dr. No and is considered a possible 11th victim is 43-year-old Sharon Lynn Kadzierski.
That's a good last name.
Kadzierski. I apologize if I pronounce that wrong. That's a hard name. Sharon was last seen in late October of 1989 in Miami Lakes, Florida. She was found near a truck stop in Youngstown, Ohio. So last seen in Florida, found dead in Ohio.
It's a long drive.
Yeah. She was found on April 9th, 1992. So last seen in October of 89, found April 9th of 92. Obviously, I don't think she was killed right away.
I don't think so either. She might have hitchhiked.
She probably
then he found her in the Ohio area.
She probably hitchhiked, visited a few places, and just over the years made her way up there.
Mm-hmm.
So she was beaten to death. She was missing pieces of clothing that have never been found. And she would not be identified until later on, too. Now, Sharon's discovery would be a little different from the rest. Like I said, Sharon, it's unknown if for sure if she was a Dr. No victim or if she was sadly just a victim of somebody else. Because at one point, a truck driver named Dennis Hetzel was charged and arrested for her murder. And this was because his teeth supposedly matched the bite marks that were found on Sharon's body. But forensics at the time were doubted in regard to accuracy because this would have been in 1992. Forensics were still a new thing. That's the other thing, why they say it's not confirmed if she was linked to Dr. No or not, because she was the only body with bite marks on her. Sadly, they were not able to actually try Dennis for her murder because in 1995, he was extradited to Texas for the rape of his 5 and 7-year-old daughters.
I really hope Texas killed him.
He died in prison.
No, that's not good enough.
So the thing is, they don't say when he died, and I couldn't find out how he died in prison.
Wow. I hope it wasn't peacefully.
Same. So throughout the finding of all these victims, the investigation was obviously extremely wide-ranged and complex. The police interviewed thousands of truck drivers, sex workers, and truck stop employees. They were able to piece together a picture of the suspect, though a lot of details were inconsistent, so the sketch wasn't 100% accurate. But the few things that they did know that everyone coincided with is that he had a large build, he was fair-skinned, basically, he was white. He had dark hair. He was between the ages of 25 and 40.
That's a gap.
Yeah. He wore glasses, and he talked with an accent that made people think that he lived in the northeastern part of the United States.
So, Bostonian accent?
Yes, basically. Which kind of makes sense that one girl ended up in New York. If he was doing a haul down to Oklahoma and then was heading back home, that would put him in New York.
Yeah.
And this part was where it got mixed up, where it wasn't 100%, is that he was either driving a dark blue semi-truck or a silver truck with a red hood.
That's two different extremes there, people.
That is. I mean, it is also possible that something happened with his cab and he had to drive a new one for a little bit.
Yeah, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Now, during this investigation, because this is another police force that they continued looking into suspects throughout the years, they never stopped. Multiple suspects would be brought forth, and thankfully, all unidentified victims would be given their names and identities back.
That's good.
They identified everybody. So, at this point, the last body, was officially found in 1992. But remember, this is the one where they don't know for sure if she truly was a victim of Dr. No. So in 1991, the police began looking into their first suspect for the 10 that they are certain were victims of Dr. No. This was 36-year-old Alvin Wilson. from Lake County, Ohio. Strands of his hair had been found on a few of the women, and when they looked at his credit card receipt, he was placed in the same area as at least 3 of them. Wilson drew the attention of the police after April's boyfriend/pimp, Derek, reported his license plate to the police after she was found murdered. When they looked into Wilson, it was discovered he had assaulted and attempted to murder a woman in October of 1989. And while he was very promising, it went downhill quickly when they discovered he had actually been in jail at the time of some of the killings. He would thankfully later be convicted for that attempted murder in 1989 and would be given a life sentence. I am assuming his hair had been found on some of the women because more than likely he had been a client.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You guys still find Artemis hair.
Everywhere, dude. Everywhere.
Hair stays on you forever.
Hair
especially if
goes
it's
everywhere.
Artemis. So later that same year, still in 1991, John Thottenberry would become the second suspect. He was arrested for a series of 5 murders in Oregon, New Jersey, Ohio, and Alaska.
Alaska.
Between 1990 and 1991. Yeah, he went everywhere. After he was arrested for these, he admitted he had also murdered someone in 1984, which apparently someone had actually already been arrested for. So someone innocent was convicted for this murder. And he was like, oh, by the way, that was actually me. Not this guy. He was ruled out because it was determined that his victim profile was just far too different. He actually preferred men. All of his victims were men. He would befriend them, kill them, and then rob them.
Wow.
He was executed in 2009.
I hope they robbed him and then blinded him and then shot him.
Executed. I thought you said shot. You don't get shot. You get shocked.
Correct me. No.
My bad.
Okay.
So the
I hope
next...
they shocked him.
Good job. So the next suspect would come 3 years later. In 1994, 36-year-old James Robert Cruz Jr. was convicted for raping and strangling 17-year-old Dawn Marie Birnbaum.
I hope he died too.
James had dumped her body off I-80 near Bellefontaine, Pennsylvania in March of 1993. James had mainly been considered as a suspect for Dr. No because pieces of Dawn's clothing were missing, but he was removed as the suspect when subsequent testing yielded insufficient evidence to charge him for any other murders. So basically, they had nothing to tie him to these murders. But he did receive a life sentence for the murder and rape of Dawn. So there's that. In 1995, they would be looking into their 4th suspect, who was 28-year-old Sean Patrick Gobble. Gobble, gobble. Sean had already been suspected of killing a woman in North Carolina and 2 sex workers in Tennessee, and was already a person of interest in a number of killings across 10 different states. He was the strongest contender thus far, but after they looked into him more, they actually determined he would have been too young for the first murder because he was still in high school in 1981. And in the mid-'80s, he was also active duty Army and stationed out of the state. So he literally couldn't have killed him in Ohio. He probably killed the other ones, but no. In 2005, the police would begin looking into their 5th suspect. DNA profiling was able to identify another serial killer who drove a semi-truck. This was 46-year-old Delmas Colvin. Delmas. Sounds stupid just like him. His initial charge was for the murder of 33-year-old Jackie Simpson on April 16th, 2003, and 37-year-old Melissa Weaver on May 9th, 2003, both of whom were killed in Toledo, Ohio. Delmas was originally given the death penalty for these two murders. But in order to avoid this, he told them, hey, I'll confess to the other people I murdered too. So these were people they didn't even know he murdered. These murders included 38-year-old Valerie Jones, who died in 2000, 40-year-old Jacqueline Thomas, who was killed in 2000. Correction, Valerie did not die, she was killed. 40-year-old Dorothy Wetzel, who was killed in 2000. 43-year-old Lily Summers, who was killed in 2002. And 27-year-old Donna Lee White, who was killed in 1987 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Delmas would eventually claim he actually killed 52 different women between 1983 and 2005. But not all of this could be verified. And you know how serial killers are. Sometimes they admit to crimes they definitely did not commit.
Yeah.
And while some say that it's still possible that he could have been Dr. No, they haven't been able to prove it. And part of this probably comes from the fact that Delmas was an African-American man, and all of the witnesses clearly said Dr. No was white, like pale like me white.
Translucent.
Like no mix-up. No, that's Addie at translucent. I got a little bit of a tan. Love you, Addie. So we're going to take a step away before we introduce our sixth suspect. In 2010, thanks to the very distinctive jewelry and tattoos that our second unidentified Jane Doe had when she had gone missing and then obviously was found, she was able to be identified by her family. This is why tattoos are a good thing. She turned out to be 21-year-old Paula Beverly Davis from Missouri. Now, Paula was mainly linked to Dr. No due to the proximity of the other victims and the similar modus operandi, basically meaning the same method of killing and stealing of the clothes. But there was always the chance that she may have been the victim of a different serial killer, Lorenzo Gillard, who was known as the Kansas City Strangler.
I remember that name.
And remember that, because I will be covering him. In 2014, the 10th victim, our second Jane Doe. Remember, it was Buckskin Girl, Jane Doe, Jane Doe. So our second Jane Doe would be identified, and she was 29-year-old Patrice Anita Corley. She was a military veteran and a mother of one from Louisville, Kentucky, which is where I-71 ends. It is still unknown how she ended up so far from home. However, after being identified, the police learned that her sister-in-law had actually tried to report her missing on December 4th, 1989, after not hearing from her for so long. I'm going to take a random guess and say Kentucky and Ohio were not communicating, and that's how they didn't put it together.
That or they didn't care.
So, in 2018, so 4 years after the last one was identified, while they were continuing to look for potential suspects, police would finally learn the identity of the first victim. On April 18th, the Miami County Sheriff's Office, the Miami County Coroner's Office, and the DNA Doe Project made the announcement of Buckskin Girl's identification. She was 21-year-old Marcia L. King. Volunteers from the DNA Doe Project had used a blood sample collected in 1981 and used advanced DNA techniques, uploaded a sample through different public genealogy databases. And then through GED Match, they were able to identify a candidate within 4 hours. And on April 9th, the Miami Valley Regional Crime Lab was able to confirm Marcia's identity through a relative's DNA. So they discovered it on the 9th, but after they wanted to give the family time, wanted to talk, and then they announced it on the 18th. While speaking with the family, this is when police learned that Marcia had actually not been a sex worker. She was just someone who regularly hitchhiked, which back then a lot of men and women did. It was very common.
Yes, it was.
That's why serial killers were so big.
Yeah.
It was easy, sadly.
People were trusting and just willingly getting in people's cars. No candy involved.
And they were just like, you want some weed? Hell yeah, brother. So she left her home of Arkansas in 1980 and was never seen again. Now, I did learn while doing my research, her mom still lived in the same exact home. And her mom had stated that she still lived there because if her daughter were to ever come home, she wanted to be there.
She wanted to make sure she knew that she was always there for her.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
I
sad.
mean, it is sad, but her mom was given answers. And a lot of parents who lost family to serial killers, especially when they're unidentified, they don't get those words. They just die never knowing what happened. I mean, that's how the Lady of the Dunes was.
Yeah.
Her parents passed away. They never knew.
That's so scary.
Now, in 2020, so 2 years after Marcia King was identified, DNA identification technology would help locate the 6th and final suspect, Samuel Legg III, a former long-haul Midwest truck driver from Chandler, Arizona. Now, bear with me because this next part contains a lot of numbers and a lot of information, and hopefully this explains it all. So this all actually started the year prior in 2019. The DNA sample collected from a 1997 rape of a 17-year-old girl from Medina County hit a familial match through a public database. The familial match was Samuel's brother. I was not able to locate his name. And Samuel's brother would help the police locate Samuel. Samuel was charged and incarcerated for this crime. Now in 2020, the DNA sample that they retrieved from Sharon would match with the DNA from the rape kit. So Sharon had DNA left on her, and this was an exact match for the DNA that they found in the rape kit for the 17-year-old. So Samuel was actually indicted on Sharon's murder while he was in jail.
Oh.
So he's in jail for the rape. He's being indicted for the murder. Police discover that Samuel had murdered 2 other women. 39-year-old Jolie Conkle, who was found dead in 1997, and 27-year-old Victoria Collins, who was found the year prior, 1996. Both Jolie and Victoria were found strangled to death behind truck stops, with Victoria specifically being found behind the Union 76 truck stop, frozen.
Oh.
Julie was found at a truck stop near the border of Illinois and Wisconsin. Remember, I-70 goes to Illinois for sure.
Mm-hmm.
While investigating Samuel, police learned that he was also the suspect in the 1990 murder of his own stepdaughter, Angela Hicks, out of Arizona. But he has not faced charges at this point in time. So there were a lot of common themes with the women that Samuel was confirmed to have killed that matched the others that are considered the victims of Dr. No. Victoria was determined to be frozen at some point, just like Anne Marie. And all of Samuel's victims and Dr. No victims were strangled to death.
Okay, so similarities that match pretty well.
Now, Samuel is considered the most logical suspect. And most people, true crime junkies, investigators, forensic scientists, people who read this, they believe Samuel is actually Dr. No, which is why Sharon is also considered a suspect of Dr. No. If Samuel is not Dr. No, Sharon would just be a victim of Samuel. If Samuel is Dr. No, Sharon is a victim of Dr. No. But sadly, there's actually a chance that Dr. No will never actually be identified because Samuel will never be able to stand trial for these crimes. In 2019, Samuel was ruled incompetent to stand trial due to severe mental illness, specifically neurosyphilis, a bacterial infection of the brain caused by untreated cases of syphilis, as well as schizophrenia and delusions.
Well, because the brain's eating itself.
Yeah. Now, the courts were still trying to charge him, but he was found incompetent in 2021, 2023, and 2025. So they do think he is Dr. No. They just can't get him competent enough to try him. Samuel was committed to the maximum security Twin Valley Behavioral Health Center in Columbus, Ohio. And he's only taken out for competency hearings. And if he's considered incompetent, they send him right back. He ain't getting out of there. So like I said, as of today, Dr. No has yet to be officially identified, though Samuel is considered to be the infamous I-71 serial killer. It is also likely that his mental health will continue to decline and he will die from the neurosyphilis. Basically, his brain will eat itself until he's dead.
Yeah, mushed.
And he will never actually face his crimes. Though I guess mainly this is his way of facing his crimes. He's suffering.
Very slowly.
Good. Slow, painful death.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do have hope for this one because the Lady of the Dunes, her killer was charged after he was already dead. So they could basically just wait for him to die and be like, well, we're just going to close these cases and say that he was the murderer.
Yeah.
I personally think it was him. I think he was just like a big fuck you to law enforcement and was like, well, I'm not going to tell you about all of them.
Or maybe he had gone already crazy by that time that he just couldn't remember.
I mean, he may not remember. So obviously, there was a lot of information, a lot of victims, and I want to take the time to name each and every one of them. And this includes the women that Samuel was charged or suspected of murdering. The following women lost their lives to the monster, Dr. No, that almost everybody now considers Samuel Legge III. In order, they are 21-year-old Marcia King, 25-year-old Marcia Matthews, 23-year-old Shirley Dean Taylor, 18-year-old April Barnett, 28-year-old Jill Allen, 27-year-old Anne Marie Patterson, 21-year-old Paula Beverly Davis, 19-year-old LaMonica Cole, 31-year-old Terry Rorsch, 19-year-old Patricia Anita Corley, and then the last four are confirmed victims of Samuel, potential victims of Dr. No. 43-year-old Sharon Lynn Kadzierski, 39-year-old Julie Conkle, 27-year-old Victoria Collins, and his stepdaughter, 14-year-old Angela Hicks. And that is the case of the serial killer, Dr. No, who most believe to be Samuel W. Legge III.
I feel bad for these victims' kids and their families not always knowing. I am glad that they at least got to bury them. As a reminder, our social media is up and running, and we have Facebook, Instagram, X, and we are streaming on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. If you could do us a huge favor, please comment and rate the episodes and pages, as it helps push us out there into the world. We want to fly, people. Maybe just a little bit, not to the sun. If you have anything you'd like to send us or want us to talk about, please send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, or email us at deadandwrongpodcast@gmail.com. And like always, we will see you next week for another episode full of all things dead.
bed.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Boy. Boy.